Cheers. This is quite pineapple-y. The Aloha Traveler Pineapple Shandy. This video is long overdue. This is my 2017 dual gaming and streaming PC setup. Tons of horsepower. We're going to explain what's in both computers, what they do, because each one has a separate job, and some of the things I've learned through the process of trial and error and talking to other influencers, whether it's about green screen or $5 clip that saved me a ton of headache, my lighting solutions, some of the audio stuff, or even what mouse I use, the M65 Pro, why I use that, the mouse pad, and the headset that I use. So thank you again for being a part of this journey. You guys are the main reason I'm constantly looking to improve the quality, which oftentimes I have to reach out to partners or sponsors, or it costs me a lot of money. And there's a little bit of both behind me. Again, ton of headache, ton of learning. So let's start with the 5960X overclocked to 4.2 on an all-in-one solution from Corsair, the H100i. You've probably used them, you've seen them. It's pretty good. It allows me to stay stable at 4.2 under 1.3 volts. And again, that's a 5960X, because this computer does three things. It games, it records, and it renders. It also has some other parts. It's got a 1200 watt power supply from EVGA Platinum. I know, overkill, but that's what they sent me. What's not overkill is the EVGA X99 classified and very sexy Mobo that's in both computers. So what I use for sound card, I don't. I used to use an Asus Phobos or Phoebus, whatever it's called, which was phenomenal. But the onboard sound is so good with this thing, I just run it to the mixer, then run it to my headset. And of course, there are multiple Samsung SSDs for my operating system, which is still, excuse me, the pineapples are visiting, again and again. 8.1 64-bit, and of course my games, because you want to basically load in the maps and the games extremely quickly. You don't want to play that wait. Tons of VR, tons of Steam games and the other SSDs. Then of course, tons of Western Digital Black or Enterprise drives. The recording and editing process is extremely brutal. Not only do you want reliable hard drives, but you want stuff that you can beat on. That's there for you, because the worst thing that can happen to you is you can lose a hard drive. And that's another reason why I run, I think, 12 terabytes in this computer over 3 or 4 different hard drives, is I'll record a couple days on one, then I'll record a couple days on another, then I'll record a couple days on a third one, and keep rotating. So if, by any means, one of these hard drives dies, I don't lose absolutely everything. It's not a redundant system, it's just a safer system, because I have lost a hard drive many moons ago. I think everybody has. It sucks. Yeah, you can recoup what's on those disks, but that takes time and money, and usually it's just not worth the hassle. So that's my system. Why the enterprise drives? Because they can take a bigger beating than the black drives, which can take an absolute ton of beating compared to multiple drives out there. I've been happy with them. I've only gone through one of them, and that was my bad, because I was transferring it between a very old computer to a pretty old computer, dropped it in the hardwood floor. Turns out that's not so great for a hard drive. It failed 5 to 6 months later. That's my bad. So we've got a ton of horsepower, which is important in this thing, along with 64 gigs of Corsair RAM. Why all the RAM? Why all the CPU power? Because of rendering. Simply put, anytime you edit or render, that's downtime. For those of you who do not know, I use a BenQ 120 Hertz monitor still, because I like juicy frames and I'm not ready to jump to 1440p. But when you render, that takes time and it takes a ton of CPU power. It is extremely CPU intensive. So that 1080 60 FPS footage you see on YouTube takes quite a bit of time to render. Let's say it's a 10-minute file. Thanks to the overclocked 5960X at 4.2, that 10-minute file takes 15 or so minutes. That's 1080p 60 FPS at 30K bit rate, which is absolutely overkill for YouTube, because when you upload to YouTube, it recompresses it, makes it look like dog poop, and then it allows you guys to see the video. So what I see on my end is a heck of a lot prettier than what you see on your end. It'd be nice if YouTube would increase those bit rates available for 1080p, but they do scale. If you upload at 1440 or 4K, you get a lot more bit rate. But what's that take? Processing power and time. For those of you that do know people like Jack Frags that would render an occasional video at 4K to see the ultra realistic settings, or a mod that he might have found or wants to showcase, you can go render a 10-minute footage, but go check back in a day or so and hope it didn't crash. I mean, the render times are ridiculous for 4K. You're talking multiple hours more than likely. That's if you have a 5960X or 6900K. Something crazy, which a lot of people don't have. So this computer allows me to game at high FPS. It allows me to record without taking too big of a hit on my CPU. It allows me to render in a time-effective manner. That's extremely important because when a new game pops or a DLC or new maps are available or guns, you want to be able to get that footage up and get back to gaming. Because if you're rendering, you're definitely not gaming. No CPU can do that unless you've got like crazy Xeons, and I don't even think that's going to game very well, let alone be affordable, is it now? So that's one part of the equation. That's a 5960. This is the 6950 overclock to 4.2, right beneath 1.3 volts with the better cooler. And this computer is absolutely crazy. This has an all-in-one solution from EK, recommended to me by Jason, one of the community members. Phenomenal. It's the Predator. So this thing at 4.2, because it does get a lot of pressure. This is the Twitch live stream compression machine. It runs at 70 degrees under full load. So the entire purpose of this computer right here is to compress the stream. There are two things that can make your stream look better: bit rate and compression. One I'm limited on, the bit rate. We don't have the best internet in the world in Ohio. There's not a lot of competition in most of the United States, so you're stuck with what provider's there. Oftentimes there's not another solution. So our upload speeds are extremely limited. So what can you do? You can compress the footage using OBS, and that's part of the setup. This computer, the 6950X, runs two LG 21:9. Nothing special about these. They're not 1440p monitors, they're just normal monitors. One runs OBS, the other screen runs, of course, chat. I can see my Twitch dashboard, then of course stream levels, which most of your favorite live streamers use. It tells me who follows, who subs, who resubs, how many months, and of course tips and anything they might have said in their sub or resub message. Often pretty darn memey and entertaining at times. So these are just 60 FPS monitors, and the graphics card is overkill. The only reason you need a GPU in this computer is to pump a couple monitors. It's my old 780 Ti. Could probably put like a 760 and be fine to reduce the power consumption, because these computers do suck up quite a bit of power. My electric bill in the summertime with the AC running can be north of $300 to $400, which is a pain, because that's a bill you don't ever want to cut. So this is the 6950X overclocked to 4.2. It's got 32 gigs of RAM. Again, an EVGA X99 mobile. This has an EVGA 850 watt power supply, which is more than enough. It has one SSD and one Western Digital black hard drive. Doesn't really need it. And again, the only thing really on this computer is Spotify for the stream, the music that you guys hear. It's got OBS, it's got some plugins, and that's about it. It's all about the CPU, the capture card, both of them. So the 6950X allows me to compress the video file down, so I don't need to use bit rate. So if I don't have compression, you can use more bit rate. So why don't I run at 5K bit rate? Because that affects you, the viewer. That means for you to see source, you have to be downloading a 5K bit rate, which might be more than your internet can do. Or if your sister's watching Yo Gabba Gabba or something else in the other room on Netflix or on YouTube, that could be making the stream a little bit choppy. So I don't want to limit my viewership. And that's kind of what Twitch recommends. Don't go past that 3.5 based on the internet power that they see that users have, the throttling that they see, or the stuttering that they see on their end. So we compress it. I'm one step from the craziest compression. So this comes in via a Magewell HDMI 2.0. It's a $900 capture card. So from the 1080, there's an HDMI 2.0 cable that goes all the way around the uplift desk, and it goes into the Magewell, and that comes in, and it can accept 120 FPS. So this capture card can accept, I think, 120 or 144 FPS. So that keeps the screen tearing down, which is important because I play shooters and there is an absolute ton of movement. Now there's also a Live Gamer HD capture card in there for the audio. So the audio from the gaming PC comes in the mixer, and the mixer goes out to the Live Gamer HD just for the audio. So there's 2 capture cards in this PC. The rest is just the compression. So I bring in 1080 at 120 Hertz, goes out to you guys at 720 at 60 FPS. The quality has improved tremendously thanks to the capture card, thanks to the compression. So why don't I run the lowest or the craziest setting? Because believe it or not, the 6950X is bottlenecked. It can't handle it. Anytime there's crazy movement or a crazy map, it actually peaks all of the cores because it's spread across them. What's that mean for you guys? Lag. That means the stream stutters almost as if I'm having or you're having a bad internet connection. So when we go down to the low, one above or one beneath the craziest setting, we run about 50 to 60% usage with all the plugins that I'm running and Spotify and chat and everything else, and it runs smooth. This CPU under that crazy load runs at about 68 to 70 degrees on the hottest core. Absolutely nuts. So let's talk about the lights real quick. They're being used right now. You saw them earlier in the video. They're FJ Westcott Flex lights. They're 256 bicolor LEDs, a 10-ounce panel. You can gaff tape it. You can put it on a stand like I have. And of course, they've got a completely controllable box that you can change the color all the way from the low 3K to the high 3K. And of course, the brightness from 1 to 100, and it is blinding at 100. Get your sunglasses out. They're waterproof up to the powered box. They're absolutely amazing because when it comes to a green screen, it's important to have the right light. Don't want too much, don't want too little, definitely the right tones and colors. The green screen was actually recommended by Stoda. It's like a $40 green screen. I'll link it down below. And the best thing about this thing, it's held by a $5 clip, which took me 2 years to find something like that. I used to use a canvas green screen. If you bump it, it'd be wrinkled. You had to iron it once a month because the light would hit it. It'd pick up the wrinkles and the green screen would do all this crazy shimmering. That absolutely stunk. So this $40-ish green screen and a $5 clip has been a saver. It's on a stand. It's great. You can bump it. You can move it. You can do whatever you want. Because it's taut and stretched out, you don't ever have to worry about wrinkles, and it's absolutely amazing. A couple other things that I'll link in the description down below, which is extremely important to me. Let's talk about mice. I've used a lot of mice, from Logitech's all the way to Rocat's, and of course the Razer products. This is the M65 Pro RGB, linked in the description. Love this mouse. It's about comfort. It's about the switches, and the sensor, and the feet, and the grip. I really, really like the combination of the contour of this mouse, the grip of it, which is the material it's made of, because you want precision in a shooter. You don't want to be slipping and sliding all over that mouse and feel like it's drifting away from you. You don't want to over-aim, under-aim. You want to be right on target. When you're in the zone, a good mouse, no matter what brand or what your preference is highly important. If it's not comfortable, if you're not feeling right, you're not gonna play right. So I'll link this down below for you guys to check out. It's really affordable, often on sale for less than $40 in the United States. Next, let's talk about a mouse pad, which is extremely important. I use a high friction SteelSeries QCK Heavy, and I've been using it for years. I'll link that down below. It is wide, it's tall, it's got a 5mm rubber-ish pad on it. No need for a wrist guard. My wrists never ache. But remember, it's always important to stretch your wrists. You can look up on YouTube multiple doctors who recommend what stretches to go through with the windshield wipers and all this stuff. Extremely important if you don't want to have aches and pains, just in case you too become an old washed up ex-competitive gamer. So very important. This mouse pad's been great to me. A lot of the newer mouse pads that go underneath your keyboard look great, but they're not very tall, which means you have to be swiping more instead of just fluid, continuous movements. You don't want to run out of real estate. The next thing that I really love after trying multiple different types of headsets and brands at events, whenever I go to an event to record or a feedback session, I've used everything from Logitech to Razer to Astros to Turtle Beaches, and I look for clarity, I look for comfort. And for those of you who might be new, I've been using Audio-Technica for quite some time. They've sent me multiple care packages but I bought three pairs or so before they picked me up and started partnering and sponsoring me. These are the Audio-Technica AD900Xs. These are actually less than $130 or so in the United States now. They used to go way north of 200. And what's important is the clarity. The ADG ones, which has their mic on them, they have the lesser drivers, the same as the 700s, which is fine. It's great. It's an improvement compared to most different headsets out there. The level of comfort is second to none. I wear glasses a lot when my contacts are bugging me or it's been a long day. I can stream all day, game all day. They're called the Airs for a reason. You can't even really tell they're on your head. It's like pillows here, and they don't squeeze you, which is really important if you do wear glasses, because the last thing you want is your glasses to get squeezed into the side of your head to give you the worst headache after a while. Some of my old Logitech headsets used to do that. Those hard pads would just squeeze you, and you could only play for a couple hours before you had to throw the contacts back in. That's not a good feeling. Just like the mouse, it's not just about the quality, but it's about the comfort. If you're not comfortable, you're not going to be very happy. So those are my three favorite peripherals that I use: the mouse pad, and the headset. Of course, I still use Corsair keyboards. They're okay. I've had some issues with the firmware and kind of losing some of my profiles, not being able to come out of BIOS mode, but it's still a pretty good mechanical keyboard. Allowing you to do multiple inputs without canceling those inputs is always something important, especially if you combine a lot of movements, whether you're infantry, putting on them dance moves, or you're a tanker and you're trying to smash a couple buttons at the same time. So that's kind of been my journey so far. The journey's not over just yet. Rumor has it that the 5960X is going to be replaced with a new computer, a new gaming, recording, and rendering monster, maybe even with one of them. I think they're called the 1080 ITs or TIs or something like that. So I'm pretty excited for that. Another partnership or sponsorship thanks to you guys. Your never-ending support, so I'm really excited. That might take a while to get here, and you guys know I've got multiple trips and vacation lined up over the next month or so. So for now, the journey's kind of paused until I start the audio project. A new mixer which has a built-in compressor. Why do I want that? Because when I record on the gaming PC, it's a little clippy, a little tag ear bleedish, because I get emotional and excited. That happens. That should stop it from clipping, so I'm not blowing out your eardrums anymore, or doesn't sound like a muddled mess when I try to reduce the volume in Sony Vegas, my auditing software. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. I do have a 2-PC setup, which is kind of common in the Twitch world. I know there's lots of questions out there regarding lighting and green screen. You can get a green screen and lighting solution for less than $150 to get you started. And of course, the gaming PC hardware, and of course, everything else, the sky is the limit with how hard you want to push it and how much you want to spend. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out. I'm going to drink some more pineapple shandy as I edit this masterpiece. Ta-ta for now.